yet, but back to the Cleveland Browns, the team that now is moving in the right direction. The Browns is the Browns no more. Andrew Berry, the general manager of the Browns, appearing on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, discussing the theory of extending players, specifically quarterbacks, after 3 years, and the cautionary tale provided by Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. Here's Andrew Berry.
I think it is fair to say that that is an approach that we believe in terms of identifying pillar guys and trying to retain them as soon as we can. Now, that being said, each situation truly is unique. But we do want to get into a habit of rewarding our own and identifying those guys.
Is there a cautionary tale with the trades of Wentz and Goff this offseason and the contracts that they signed after their third year?
I think it's maybe a bit too strong to call them cautionary tales, because I truly do believe each individual and then each individual's situation based on the circumstances that are going on in their environment of their organization are different. Obviously it's something that we're aware of, and obviously I'm particularly aware of it just with Carson. But I would be hesitant to maybe extrapolate perhaps what happened with those two individuals, for maybe broader implications, moving forward.
Look, I can make this very simple. You got a decision to make if you're the Cleveland Browns. The longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to be to sign Baker Mayfield. And I think part of the dance right now between Mayfield, Josh Allen, the Bills, Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, is whoever goes first is going to get leapfrogged by the next guy who's going to get leapfrogged by the next guy. So everyone's kind of in a holding pattern here. But if you know Mayfield's your guy, and only you as the Cleveland Browns can know whether or not he's the guy, if you're sold on this guy completely, totally, and unconditionally, then you got to sign him now, because it's only going to get more expensive later.
That's right.
If you're not sold, then you wait. It's that simple.
It is that simple, Mike. You're right. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, we just saw the Dak Prescott thing, what that did to Dallas and that issue. So if you're sold, not like, oh, we think or maybe, or like, no, we've had 3 years of seeing this guy and it's all coming together and we believe in the human, and now we see the field stuff we believe in too, then you do it. You get it for the low. I mean, you get it for the Patrick Mahomes discount maybe, to where you get a contract that you go, this is laughable. Look at what we're paying him here. 3 or 4 years down the road, we're going to look back at Mahomes and be like, can you believe that still, that they signed him to that deal and he was making that back then, and now look at it now and it's not even that big of a deal? So, of course, that's what you do. I mean, so that's a no-brainer to me. The big question is just, do they 100% feel as if he's that guy? It's a tough one. Lamar, listen, we know Lamar's the guy. He's been the MVP and all that. I think Josh Allen, between 2 playoff appearances in a row and a year that he had last year where you could argue, other than Rodgers, he played second best at the position of anybody in football. Mayfield is a little different because we saw good, then we saw a lull and a step back, and then we started last year and it was a little slow at first, but then it really started to pick up and he started to really be a baller at the end of the year. So that might be not quite enough time for them to go, wait, we're totally sold he's the guy yet. They're close, but we're not totally sold. At least that's maybe how I would feel, is what I'm saying, Mike.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But they're the ones who have to, within the confines of their building, within the privacy of whatever room they gather in to have these conversations, they need to have the full and frank, bless you if that was a sneeze, they need to have the full and frank conversation. Is this our guy? Can we do better? Deshaun Watson may be available next year. Russell Wilson may be available next year. Chris, what was the possibility that was dangled to the Browns 3 years ago? Russell Wilson for the first overall pick. Not that it ever got very far, but the conversation was out there. Russell Wilson, born in Ohio, by the way. So, look, teams always assess their roster not in a vacuum. It's assessed in relation to who else is out there that they think they can get. And they will ruthlessly make a move from one guy to another guy if they think, number one, there's a clear path to getting him, and number two, that he's an upgrade over who they have.
Right.
And until Baker Mayfield is regarded as the best quarterback in all of football, and he ain't there yet, could be, I'm not going to slam the door on the possibility, but until he's regarded as the best quarterback in football, there's always a potential upgrade. The question is there a path, a realistic path, for you to get that upgrade? Because if you can and you don't, there's something wrong with you. So they only know how they feel about Baker Mayfield.
That's right.
And how they feel about their other options for next year. And maybe they give it one more year. Maybe they wait and see if Mayfield finds a higher level of performance in his second season with Kevin Stefanski as the head coach. And they also see, could Aaron Rodgers be available? Could Russell Wilson be available? Could Deshaun Watson be available? Could there be someone else who becomes available? What if the Vikings decide they'd like to move on from Kirk Cousins after this year, go to Kellen Mond, and Kevin Stefanski says, you know what, I'm more comfortable with Cousins. I was with him for multiple years in Minnesota. I think he can do more in this offense than Baker Mayfield. I'm not saying that he should feel that way, but you can't rule anything like that out. If they're sold on Mayfield completely, sign him now.
Yeah.
If they're not, let it play out. You got 2 more years of his rookie contract, let it play out. So I think that, and it all starts with the Browns having a consensus, if they can reach one, on how they feel about Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, that's it. I would think they're pretty close. I would, just from the outside looking in. I mean, I think you and I saw some pretty damn good high-level football the last, 6 weeks of the year into the playoffs, to where we were like, man, Baker Mayfield, he's throwing dimes everywhere. It's aggressive. On the Richter scale, the degree of difficulty of some of the throws he's asked to make are pretty damn high there. So, I think what we're saying here is, when you have a quarterback that you start to look at to go, wait, our guy is one of the 10 best quarterbacks in football, and he's at a spot here where he's going to be in the top 10 for a number of years, you make that. Where you start to go, even in a bad year, he's going to be the 10th best quarterback in football. That's when you go, let's sign him up. And I would think that you got to be close. I could see the Cleveland Browns thing, Mike, being a little bit of like, hey, they start out 3-1. Baker hit the ground running, left off where he was last year, and they go, we're sold. Let's start getting this done right now so we don't have to worry about it in the offseason and have to hear all of this stuff. I could very much envision that type of scenario.
Well, and the other side of it, too, is what does Baker Mayfield want? And we just always assume that a guy who's playing for a team wants to play for that team indefinitely. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson wants out of Seattle, Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay, and Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston. I have no reason to think Baker Mayfield wants to be anything other than the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns.
No.
I also know enough about Baker Mayfield, and I respect this about him. He's not just going to sit back and be a passenger on the ride that is his NFL career. He's going to be an active participant. I think that's part of this, too. Not that I'm saying he would be inclined to refuse any and all contract extensions and play the franchise tag game and eventually put himself in position where maybe he can go back to Texas and be the quarterback in Houston or go wherever else he may decide to go. I'm not saying that, but that's part of it as well. It's not a one-way street.
Yeah.
For now, though, the threshold question is, what do the Browns want to do? And if he's the guy, it's that simple. If he's the guy, you sign him. Now, Andrew Berry...
Oh.
Go ahead. I want to pivot to something else, but go ahead.
Just one last thing, because I do want to bring up like the cautionary tale thing, right? That aspect.
That's what I was getting to.
Okay,
That's
good.
what I was getting to.
Can I'll just make one of my blanket statement. I understand. Yeah, the Rams, the Eagles, those scenarios are going to be looked at, no doubt about it. But I don't think, like Andrew Berry, I think what he was trying to say is you got to take each like circumstance in its own individual, capacity there a little bit. The Eagles, they made a move on Carson Wentz. He had shown some stuff that was pretty damn special. So I understand that. And I will also say that I'm not sitting here at this point even necessarily going, I think they made the wrong decision in giving him that money. Where they went wrong is you gave a guy all this money and did nothing to support him, and then you drafted Jalen Hurts. And your quarterback was already in a controversial situation. So the Eagles kind of disrupted that formula, in my opinion. And then when you talk about the Rams and Jared Goff, to me, this is a simple case. It's a total misevaluation of a player and letting the circumstance of our team, and he's a California kid, and everybody here that's a Rams fan from California thinks he's God, and they just buckled to it. Oh, he's the guy. Let's give it to him. So they were wrong. I can say the Rams are wrong. The Eagles, there was a few things that set that forth. But like we've talked about, I would be worried about a Dak Prescott or a Joe Flacco situation or something like that. And that's why if you get to that point you're talking about, you make the move and you sign Baker Mayfield.
I still believe, though, that any situation where a team makes the move to sign a quarterback after 3 years and it doesn't work out is a cautionary tale.
Yeah, I get you.
disagree with Andrew Berry's statement that it's a bit too strong to call them cautionary tales. They are cautionary tales. They're different degrees, different types, different contexts. But I'll start with the Eagles. I mean, look, you have to factor in the possibility that the guy's going to lose his fastball because the Eagles apparently didn't. They didn't see it coming. Unless they did, they end up drafting Jalen Hurts. I don't know what they were thinking when they did that, but it definitely disrupted things.
That's a cautionary tale of it. I think you're right. Like you take that into it to be the caution.
You look at the whole. You look at the whole experience.
Right.
You look at the whole experience, and basically, if you're going to make a guy the guy and give him the contract, you can't be screwing around with using second-round picks on quarterbacks or first-round picks on Jordan Love.
Or no receivers.
Make the guy.
Right.
With the Rams just blew it.
Right.
There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
They just blew it.
Yeah.
And we all knew they were going to do it. We all knew it was coming. We all said, don't do it. And I feel like at some level, and I remember, I think it was Fred Rogan with the NBC affiliate in L.A., and he has a radio show out there, and he had me on and called me out because I was saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And he did this interview with Sean McVay and acted like it's so ridiculous to suggest that Jared Goff shouldn't get a second contract. It's like, fine, go ahead, do it. It was like kind of like where we are with the Jaguars and Tim Tebow. You're going to do it? Fine, go ahead, do it. Better for us if you do it because we can sit back and watch it all fall apart. And guess what? It all fell apart. So that one truly is the cautionary tale. You got to be 100% sold on the quarterback. He can't be a product of the system. He can't be a guy that just fits some broader image that you have of what your quarterback is gonna be. It can't be we have to pay the quarterback a ton of money because we need the other guys in the locker room to follow.
Yeah, that's not the right reason.
That's not the solution.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not just, well, he's the next guy who's due a contract, so we're going to give him this big deal. Because at the end of the day, and I'm telling you, I really do think one of the reasons Jared Goff is a Lion and was part of that Matthew Stafford package is because the Rams were trying to keep Stan Kroenke from realizing they had to give up a first-round pick to get Jared Goff's contract off the books. That's how badly they screwed this up. The thinking is, from the people I've spoken to, it was a 1 and a 3 for Stafford and a first-round pick to the Lions to take on that horrendous Jared Goff contract. So that's definitely a cautionary tale.
Definitely.
And the tale is, if you're not sure, don't sign the guy.
That's right. Yeah, when you put it that way, you're right. They're all cautionary tales. So I'll stand back. I'll say that I will correct myself in saying that, yes, it's just not apples to apples. You got to take each story as its own and go, wait. All right, that's a cautionary tale. Let's not do that when we sign our guy or whatever else. So I would think it's really close to be into that territory with Baker Mayfield. Listen, I think we're there with Josh Allen. You tell me if you agree with that or not. Yes. I think
Sign Josh Allen now.
Right, exactly. Like, what are you going to do? Wait for him to throw 52 touchdown passes and 75 highlight plays this year? So that's scary. Lamar, again, same thing. I'd say now, too. It's a little different because of his running quarterback and all that, but I would still say no. Do it now. Get it for the low. Who knows? The Ravens are good. They could go to the Super Bowl. He could be the Super Bowl MVP, and then you're going, oh, damn, we got to pay him an extra $7 million a year just because of that. So that's the things you got to worry about. But I think Lamar and Josh Allen do it now. Baker Mayfield, I think if I'm Cleveland, I might want to just see the start of the year and see how it starts rolling a little bit before I do that. I just want to see one little more piece of evidence to make me feel good and comfortable that it's all going in the right way.
I think for the Ravens, there's a couple of challenges that they need to confront.
Yeah.
One, you want to structure the deal in a way that gives you an out if within a couple of years the injuries begin to pile up. Lamar Jackson's been fine so far, but given the style of play, you never know when things are going to start to not hold up physically for Lamar Jackson as he gets deeper into his 20s. You don't want to have these guarantees that tie your hands for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So that needs to be part of it. The other side of it is this, Chris, and I asked Eric DeCosta about it a couple of weeks ago on PFTPM, what kind of challenges you face when you're not negotiating with a player who's represented by a traditional NFLPA certified agent. And we didn't get all the way down the rabbit hole. In fact, we didn't get very far down the rabbit hole because DeCosta didn't even begin to go there. But there's a temptation if you're a team negotiating with a player who doesn't have a traditional agent. There's a temptation to overreach.
Of course.
There's always a temptation to get away with things that other agents would notice, that any agent would notice, that a CAA, a Todd France, a David Dunn, the quarterback agents, you can't pull that on them. You can pull that on someone who's representing himself, being advised by his mom and by some lawyer that they know or some accountant that they know who doesn't do this for a living but thinks that they know enough that they can do it. No.
Ghost Rider.
There's nuances, there's factors, and there's temptations to take advantage and not say, and this is the balance that DeCosta is going to have to strike. Good long-term partner, we're looking out for our guy, versus best interest of the organization. It's better for us to have this clause in there, and they have no idea what that clause means. Let's just jam it through, and they're not going to figure it out. That's the dilemma that I think you face when you're dealing with a guy who isn't represented by one of the top quarterback agents.
Yeah, I agreed 100%. You better be careful if you're Baltimore. Even in that scenario there, they might finagle some things in their advantage. They got to be careful. Because if they do screw over a player of the caliber of a Lamar Jackson or anything like that, that will, of course, be huge news. Nobody will like the Ravens. Players will look at them differently, and their locker room will. But you're right. There's still things that they're going to be able to get away with or finagle. That's why the agent, and that's why, to me, hey, paying the 3% is a no-brainer. A no-brainer. It's like you broke it down. I was represented by Tom Condon in my playing days. Yeah, he knows between his personal relationships, nuances of how to negotiate, nuances of the CBA, knowing how the salary cap works and how different teams operate. And, this GM does this and does this. Those are things that a great agent can bring to the table. He can give you a lot of security for the bad things that happen and also maximize everything you need as far as just your top end stuff too. And if I could tell Lamar Jackson, I'd tell him to get an agent for sure.
Yeah, this is something that Richard Sherman and Russell Okung really tried to spearhead a few years ago, taking it beyond what's right for them and trying to encourage other players to believe it was right for them. The bottom line is you get yourself a good agent. You're going to have a larger pie from which you get 97% versus the smaller pie from which you get 100%.
Yeah.
It's always been that simple, and it continues to be that simple. And fortunately, other players haven't signed on to this idea that we don't need our own agents. And that tension is still out there. I'm telling you, it's still out there. And it's been highlighted in recent weeks by the fact that the union, which regulates the agents, has wanted the players not to show up, and the agents intervene and say to their clients, don't listen to the union on this. Listen to yourself. Listen to me. Listen to what your contract has to say.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.